A very good evening to all. I, Kriti Vadhera, would like to welcome all the teachers, educators, learners and students to CIT NCERT's special live phone program. You are watching us live on VmVideocon Channel number 1 to 12. This is SAHYOG session, SAHYOG, where we discuss about guidance and counseling of our youngsters and adolescents. And today the topic will be building resilience in children to face challenges in life. And the experts who have joined us today for this live interaction program, I would like to introduce Dr. Nume. He is joining us from Northeast RI. Hello, we welcome you, Dr. Nume, to VmVideocon.
Thank you, ma'am.
And
thank you,
the practicing counselor who has joined us today for this discussion, I would like to introduce Mrs. Angela. She will also be part of this discussion. We welcome you as well, Mrs. Angela.
Good evening all. Thank you, ma'am.
And before starting this interaction, I would like to remind our viewers here that if you have any questions, any queries, do let us know. Dial on our toll-free numbers. Numbers would be 1800 and the other number would be 1800 To watch the live streaming of this program, kindly log in to our official YouTube channel, NCERT Official, and there also in the live chat box, you can send all your questions and queries. We will be taking up all your questions in the last segment of the program. So beginning with today's discussion on building resilience, Dr. Nume, first I would like to bring in into the discussion you itself. So let's begin this way itself, that what is basically resilience? Kindly elaborate for our viewers.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Resilience is the capacity or the ability to do well during and after an adverse event or a period of adversity. Now, one has to understand what adversity is here. The thing is, adversity may be defined as any failures, any misfortune, any ill luck, or troubles, hardships, crises, disasters, and any other challenges like in life. And a person who is resilient can adapt to situations with the skill to cope with the future challenges. Now, there's an important definition that, it is not just about, like bouncing back, but it is also so much about bouncing forward, going forward. It means from the process of facing an adversity in order to become stronger and better at tackling, new challenges ahead of a person. So the definition of resilience can also be said like this: it is your ability to withstand adversity and bounce back, not only bounce back, and grow despite life's turn down. So it's not just, as I said, just about bouncing back. It's also about going forward by learning from the process of facing an adversity. So this is all I want to say. Later on, we will try to illustrate about, what adversity is and how do we face them. What is the, the role of teachers and parents in terms of creating this.
Certainly, we will be discussing more in detail about resilience and how children can face challenges in life. And here I would like to bring into the discussion the practicing counselor who has joined us today, Mrs. Angela. Mrs. Angela, I welcome you again. And I would like you also to elaborate in your words what resilience means.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. First, I would like to convey my thanks to NCERT for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts on the topic of building resilience in children. To understand resilience, I would like to start with a story which most of you might have heard. Once upon a time, deep in the woods lived an oak tree and a reed. The oak tree stood tall and proud, whereas the reed was tiny and humble. The oak often would boast to the reed and say, "Look at you, even the slightest wind will make you bend, but I am strong." The reed would answer saying, "Don't worry about me, only time will tell who is stronger." One day, out of nowhere, a huge storm came. The oak tried to stay strong by not bending, but the storm was very strong and the oak tree fell down. The reed, on the other hand, bended and managed to survive the storm. The moral of the story is the moral of the story is to survive the storm in life. We need to yield to the winds. We need to be flexible and not rigid. We need, so if we bend, we don't break. And this is resilience is all about. As you may sir said in the introduction about adversity, it is all about facing difficulty, but how fast we recover and come back to normal form and start our life. So that is what this resilience is.
Okay, so that was about resilience in our practicing counselor's point of view. So here, Dr. Newmay, I would like you again for this discussion, I would like to invite you. And when now we have understood and our viewers have understood what resilience means, so I want to ask you this way, that do teachers play actually a role in cultivating this resilience amongst these adolescents and youngsters? Dr. Newmay, I will request you to unmute yourself. We cannot get your audio enough.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. Yes, teachers do have a very critical role in terms of how to cultivate resilience in our children. We need to first ask ourselves, what does it mean to, cultivate this resilience? Now, when you cultivate resilience, it would mean that you have to enhance the coping and skill, the social skill of children. You also have to enhance children's capacity to self-regulate. Self-regulate in a sense, we actually cultivate both autonomy. Autonomy means the freedom of children to decide for themselves and then take responsibility for the same. And then the other thing we need to ask ourselves is, we need to allow children to go through a process of cultivating healthy thinking habits. Healthy thinking habit requires that, we look at life and the world in a very balanced way. Balanced way because we need to also cultivate positive thoughts that will encourage them to overcome some adverse situation in their life. And the other thing we need to do is we need to enhance the self-confidence of children in facing these situations. So now I would like to say this. Teaching learning process must be informed by the skills, the values, and the competencies that promote resilience in our children. In other words, what I'm trying to say is, as we teach, we need to ask ourselves, can resilience be taught in a manner that is separated from the teaching learning process? Yes, to some extent, but overall, the approach should be that, cultivating resilience in children can be and should be made as an integral part of teaching learning process itself. So now the question here is, how then do we do it? Perhaps I will just flag some of the things that I have in mind. We can do this by first nurturing problem-solving skills through teaching. The problem-solving method of teaching, for example, allowing children to identify the problem and allowing them to analyze the problem in a very objective manner without being emotional, without being, so personally attached to the problem, but in a very detached, objective, scientific manner, backed by facts, figures, and logical arguments. And then you need to actually generate some perspectives and potential or possible solutions to the problem, and then allow the children to select what will they like to do about this problem, and then implement it. And once they implement, they'll have to go through a process of evaluating whether it really works or not. So that is one of the things. The other thing we need to do as teachers is we need to cultivate scientific attitude, scientific temper, and reduce as much as possible stereotypical understanding of things and the biases that children will bring from their, socio-economic background or from the environment that they come from. The other thing is we need to cultivate the capacity in our children to solve problems independently. Of course, at times we need to help, but then most of the time they should be able to solve their problems on their own. Then we need to ask questions rather than just giving them ready-made fixed, solutions to all the problems that they encounter. And then we need to give them practical learning situations. We also need to promote, of course, learning skills and coping skills, the capacity to cope, the skills of coping and also the social skills. We need to inculcate in our children the decision-making skills and the logical solution. And most of all, importantly, we need to also promote qualities of initiative, of taking initiatives and becoming self-dependent, the virtues of patience, the virtues of cooperation, self-confidence, etc. For example, when you teach science, you need to do a lot of experiments and to cope with kind of rigors that scientific experiments will require. You need to cultivate a lot of perseverance. So all these qualities we need to actually, get them embedded as part and parcel of our teaching learning process. And then, of course, children will have to see problems as opportunities to learn lessons to face challenges of life. Now, I have some few strategies. These are things that we need to do. How then do we actually make it happen? The first thing I would like to say is that you need to empower our children. We need to empower as teachers the children to become creators, to become the constructors, to become the producers of knowledge, because that kind of an understanding, that kind of an exercise will allow them to be able to have the confidence to face life, to be able to solve their own, situations, adverse situations that they face in life. So now my point here is, I would like to say that we need to take a paradigm shift from what may be said as indoctrination to empowerment. Empowerment through constructivist learning process. We need to create situations, a very constructive learning situations where children will experience, a sense of empowerment. I am talking about empowerment because empowerment is a process that challenges our own way of thinking, our own assumptions about, the way things are and what they can be. So, in a sense, we need to also deconstruct our assumptions about certain things. And then just as an illustration, I'd like to give an illustration here. We all grew up, all of us grew up, thinking that the story about, for example, if you're teaching English, for example, we actually grew up thinking that, the story about the tortoise and the hare is like the moral of the story. I think we all know, slow and steady wins the race. And we almost actually think that, this is the final version of knowledge. This is an unassailable, certitude. I mean, with that sense of finality and unassailable certitude, we talk as if this is the biblical truth and there can be nothing beyond this. But then if children are to look at the kind of problems that they need to face in life, I think they need to cultivate multiple ways of looking at the story, for example. So, because we don't have much time, I will just go through the story very quickly. There are more versions of the story. Now, how can a teacher, just stop at that? The teacher must empower children to go beyond that. And then, for example, in the second race, the first race, of course, the tortoise win the race. So the hare was very sad. He said, brother tortoise or friend, let's run again. And then this time they run again, of course. And then since the hare did not rest anymore under the tree or at any apple or, took any nap under the tree, the tortoise was not to be seen at all when they ran the second race. And the tortoise was left far behind. The hare win the race. And the moral of the story, which is equally valid, is that if you're fast and consistent, you'll always beat the slow and steady. Why should our children grow up thinking that there's only one way of looking at the story, for example? The next story is that they ran again. This time, since the tortoise lost the race, the tortoise, became very sad and asked the hare, let's run again. I could not, take this, I could not take this, they call loss. The last time I had a victory, it was so good. So they ran again.
Right.
But the tortoise, the tortoise, this time made a new, starting line, and also the finishing line is different this time.
Right.
Before the finishing line, there is a water body, a river. A river was, there before the finishing line, and they ran on the land.
Right.
Of course,
Yeah, Dr. Nime, I would like you to conclude to the story because we have hardly any time left. I would like to take a few questions with the practicing counselor as well.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, you know, like our children, when you teach them, you need to empower them to come with multiple perspectives, new ways of looking at an issue. And this is how, you know, like you cultivate the capacity to solve problems. The problem solving skills can be, you know, like cultivated.
That is how teachers, you know, play a vital role in cultivating resilience among students. So here I would like to bring into the discussion again Mrs. Angela, the practicing counselor who joined us. Ms. Angela, I am sure that many youngsters must be approaching you as you're a practicing counselor. So how do you deal with them when, if you're talking about resilience, and how you know, guide them to practice resilience in their lives? I would like you to elaborate on this and how important it is actually to practice resilience in life.
Actually, when children approach, usually we go to the ABC theory model of resilience. The first one is adversity, B for beliefs, and C for consequences. When adversity is, as we all know, it is being in a challenging situation. Here next comes is a belief. So this is interpreting the situation. When it comes to children, mainly children become panic only during these exam times. They have a lot of exam fear, and one actually it is also we find that during this examination time a lot of children commit suicide also. The rate of suicide is also more. So that is because children are not able to face these examinations. So that is, we will take it as adversity. So what is the belief of the child? It depends from one child to another. One child may believe, okay, this examination is very tough, so I have to do a systematic preparation for my exam. Another child might, and that child might get, the consequences will be getting the probability of getting good marks. Another child may feel just a week is enough for me to prepare for my examinations, and the consequences will be proportional to that 1 week preparation only. Maybe the child may not get good marks, but he or she might pass the examination. The next one is the child being facing an examination might feel, always it is bad luck for me. I can never get through this exam, or I forget everything. I do study at home, but I forget in the examination. So the child believes, so the child interprets the situation, and the consequences, the child doesn't get good marks at all. So here, this ABC theory this ABC theory is very important, because this belief can be handled by teachers as well as parents, saying that by motivating them, by encouraging them and other things, so that the child believes that he or she can definitely clear the examination or come out well in the examination. So resilient people tap into their strength and support system to overcome challenges and work through the problems. Everybody faces problems, but the thing, how successfully we come out. So for that, we need to...
How beautifully you have said, everyone faces problem, and how beautifully, and you know, the success is how we come out of it. So well explained, Mrs. Angela. And here we are in the last minutes of the program. So I would like Dr. Newme to give us a conclusion remark.
I would like to say that, you know, like we as parents and as teachers, our children are going to become what we are. So we have to be what we want them to be in ourselves. We have to model ourselves in such a way that we are resilient people ourselves. And then we have to, you know, like cultivate a worldview, because all that we do, everything that we are, is actually because of our worldview, the philosophy of life, a way of seeing and understanding the world. So therefore, our way of thinking, acting, feeling, and being will be, you know, like determined by the worldview. And therefore, like for example, parents or teachers can ask ourselves, what is success all about? There are many people who are successful, they commit suicide. You know, like we have even IPS officers shooting themselves with their own service weapon and all that. Now, parents actually need to teach their children, like for example, your success is found at a point where, you know, like your passion, whatever you're passionate about, meets the needs of humanity. There are also very, very, you know, like beautiful, you know, like materials, like for example, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. There are so many empowering materials, movies, things that our children can be empowered with. I think I will say that instead of solving all the problem, we have to cultivate the capacity of our children to have the decisions taken by themselves and be responsible for it. We need to do scaffolding approach. It means hand holding as much as they need, and then allowing them to take decisions for themselves. And therefore, what I like to say is that parents should have or children, parents and teachers in positive relationship and social support for them.
Right, total support. Dr. Nima is saying that parents also play a vital role and they are a total support for their children. We are in the last minute. Mrs. Angela, I would like you also to give us a conclusion remark.
So teachers and parents, they play a major role in building up the children, and in upbringing them. So to build resistance, we need to be first aware and accept ourselves, whether it is, we need to know our positives as well as our negatives. So once we know our strength and weakness, it is very easy for us to go forward. Next, every child must develop a hobby. It can be hobby or in games, so that failures, they will know that failures are not permanent, as well as success is also not permanent. So without anxiety and stress, they can go to the next level. Today they might fail, they might have a failure, but tomorrow the same thing, they will work on it, and finally they will win over the situation. So every child must have a hobby. And the third one is social connections. Whenever a child faces a problem which he or she is not able to handle, they must immediately go to the help of a trusted elder, whether that can be parents, grandparents, or it can be teachers or the counselor in the school. So this is one very important thing, so that as elders, definitely they can guide.
This is one utmost important thing, I would say, what all practicing counselor Ms. Angela has discussed, our viewers, with you. You should practice all these in your life. And we thank both the guests for joining us today. Dr. Nume, Ms. Angela, thanks for joining PM eVidya today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
And viewers, remain connected to PM eVidya to watch NCERT's resource material. Thank you.